right, guys, now we're going to get a history of psychology. So we've talked about what it is. Well, where did it all begin? So this is what we're going to reflect on. What were some early views and beliefs about human behavior? Who were the pioneers of psychology? And what modern developments have dominated much of the 20th century? So the first psychological study. Okay, guys, this is so cool. So, an Egyptian pharaoh, Egyptian king, believed that the Egyptians were the oldest, most ancient society. So, what he said was, I'm going to take a baby, I'm going to give him to a shepherd. He's not going to talk to the baby or the children at all. Okay. And so these two kids, they go with the shepherd, they're babies. The shepherd never talks to them. Their first words are Bekos, right? The Egyptian king is so excited that they've finally learned how to speak on their own. But Bekos is not an Egyptian term. Right? It was another society's term. And so he believed that, oh, then they were not the oldest, most ancient society, but simply the Phagians were. And so we know that, children aren't going to learn to naturally speak on their own, and they didn't learn that language because it was the most ancient one, or it didn't automatically come to them. That language is something that is definitely learned, but this is our first psychological study, okay? Socrates came up with the idea of knowing yourself, or this idea of introspection, that believed that we could learn much about ourselves by carefully examining our own thoughts and feelings, how we feel about certain things or certain ways when certain things happen. Another ancient Greek came up with the idea of associationism, and that was by Aristotle. The theory that our understanding of the world occurs through ideas associated, there's where associationism, right? Associated with similar sensory experiences and perceptions. He wrote Parapsyche, which is about the mind, and explored topics like sensation, perception, thoughts, intelligence, needs, emotions, and feelings, including motives and memories. He believed the approach to psychology should be scientific, and he believed that human behavior is subject to rules and laws, like the universal law. People are motivated to seek pleasure and avoid pain. Isn't that so true? We're going to try to take the easiest road out of things. We don't want to go through pain, do we? Throughout history, confusion and bizarre behavior, a lot of times psychological disorders were attributed to supernatural forces. The Greeks in particular believed that madness and confusion, confusion were the punishment of sins from the gods. Hippocrates was a Greek physician that completely rejected this notion. And he believed that confusion and bizarre behavior was a result of abnormalities to the brain. Remember, Hippocrates was a Greek physician, right? He was the father of medicine in Greece. Middle Ages, remember, Middle Ages are the dark ages. People in the Middle Ages believed that agitation and confusion was because of demon possession, and that it was a punishment of sins and the result of deals made with the devil. And they conducted tests to determine if someone was truly possessed, like the water float test. If the person floated, they were impure and in league with the devil, and they were executed. If they sank, they were pure. However, death was still the outcome. They drowned, right? Pioneers of psychology. Psychology began in the 1800s. Psychological labs, they're established in Europe and the United States. These labs, they study behavior and mental processes using a series of experiments to test single theories. Structuralism came out of Germany from William Wundt. He asked the question, what are the structures of the psychological process? He discovered basic levels of consciousness. The two basic levels, objective sensations and subjective feelings. Objective sensations accurately reflect the outside world, but subjective feelings are the emotional responses and mental images that we attribute to the outside world. Structurists believe that the human mind functions by combining objective sensations, so how the world actually is, and subjective feelings, their own feelings of it. All right. Um, that's how our minds function. That's what they believe. They use methods such as introspection. Remember from Socrates, knowing thyself, this looking within us, coined by Socrates, to carefully examine and report their experiences. Functionalism comes out of disagreement with structuralism. William James does not agree with structuralists. He believed that experiences are a continued stream of consciousness. He asked the question, what are the functions of behavior and mental processes? He focused his research on the relationship between experiences and behavior. He wrote the book entitled Principles of Psychology, which is like a modern psychology book. And he was concerned with how mental processes help organisms adapt to their environment. He combined introspection and behavioral observation in his studies. He proposed that adaptive behavior patterns are learned and maintained because they are successful, and less adaptive behaviors are dropped or discontinued because they're not successful. So people learn, all right, behavior patterns. Psychoanalysis or psychodynamic thinking is attributed to Sigmund Freud. It's a part of popular culture today. It's focused on the importance of the unconscious motives and internal conflicts in determining and understanding human behavior. Freud consulted with patients and encouraged them to talk through their problems and their feelings. The goal was to release the powerful energy he believed was behind the unconscious mind. Freud believed that our unconscious processes, such as sexual and aggressive urges, are more important than our conscious experiences in governing our behavior. This theory assumes that what most exists in a person's mind is unconsciousness, and these are conflicting impulses and urges and wishes that our human behavior is aimed at satisfying, even though they may be socially unacceptable and inappropriate. Okay. Then we have modern developments in psychology. Watson comes up with behaviorism. He believed that consciousness is a private event that is only known to the individual. He believed that psychology is a science and must be limited to observable, measurable events like behavior. So this idea of introspection, no. Behaviorists believe that we can be conditioned by external factors or external events, regardless of who we think we really are on the inside. Our belief in individual choice is just an illusion. Then we have B.F. Skinner's idea of reinforcement, that people learn to behave. This is kind of stemmed from behaviorism, okay? That people learn to behave in certain ways because they have received positive or negative reinforcement, oftentimes called operant conditioning, that guide their behavior. Okay, operant conditioning video is right here for you to view. And that was his study on how you can learn to do so, or you will do something when you're positively rewarded. Let me skip over that. All right, the Gestalt School was founded by Max Wertheimer, Kurt Kaffa, and Wolfgang Kohler. They're interested in how context influences people's interpretation of information. This school of thought is based on the idea that our perception of objects are more than the sum of their parts. Rather, they are the wholes that give shape to the meaning of the parts. They believe that learning is active and purposeful, and they believe that the problem solving is accomplished by insight, which is a person, or which is a reorganization, of perceptions that enables the individual to solve the problem. There are different phenomena that occur during perception. Similarity, similar items are often grouped together in our minds. Proximity, or objects near one another tend to be viewed as a group. Continuation or continuity, the human eye follows the smoothest path when viewing lines. Closure, the idea that your brain will fill in the missing parts of an idea or image to create a whole. Figure or ground, as your brain will distinguish between objects it considers to be the foreground of an image and the background. Symmetry and order, the brain will perceive ambiguous shapes in as simple a manner as possible. All right, this is the idea of similarity. The squares here are exactly spaced and the same size, but our brain automatically groups them based on their color, even though there's no rhyme or reason to their placement. Your eyes automatically look at either the gray or the green. Okay? Continuation or continuity. The eye tends to want to follow the straight line from one end of this figure to the other, and the curved line from the top to the bottom, even when the line changes colors midway through. Okay? Proximity. The only thing differentiating the groups on the left from those on the right is the proximity of lines, and yet your brain interprets the image on the right as three distinct groups. All right, this Gestalt principle of closure is illustrated beautifully in this World Wildlife Fund panda logo. The brain completes the white shapes even though they're not well defined. All right, this people, the figure ground approach. I see a tree. Some of you will see a gorilla and a lion. Okay, some people will immediately see the tree and the birds when viewing the logo for the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium, while others will see the gorilla and lion staring at each other. Symmetry and order. Your brain will interpret the image on the left as a rectangle, circle, and triangle, even when the outlines of each are incomplete, because that are the simpler shapes that help you connect to view the overall image. Even though you can't see them overlapping over here, you automatically know what that is. So what were some early views and beliefs about human behavior? Well, the early beliefs about some psychological disorders was that they were punishments from the gods, right? Or that it was demon possession, and showed that you were in league with the devil. Some pioneers of psychology, they will be your structuralist, your functionalist, right? Your Wundt and William James, and your Gestalt school. So your Kohler, Kafka, and the other one that I'm not really good at pronouncing. And then modern developments that have dominated much of the 20th century include behavioralism and this idea of wanting scientific data to back up what we believe. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Good luck on your questions. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.